DC has had a killer year, not just in comics, but in movies as well. Throughout the mainline DC Comics universe, we have had stuff like DCKO and all its subsequent tie-ins, expanding the story beyond the basic DCKO tournament and of other characters dealing with these things, but also the Absolute Universe as it continues to expand and grow with the current 6 titles out right now, as well as us just getting our first official crossover between the heroes of 2 different titles, being Absolute Wonder Woman and Absolute Batman. And talks of another crossover with a different DC hero from the Absolute line teaming up with Superman, or at least having a crossover with Absolute Superman. And essentially all of these different titles in the Absolute Universe have all recently concluded or have begun an arc for their specific titles, with the original Absolute trilogy entering their next arc right now, going into 2026, and with the other batch of the Absolute Universe being Absolute Flash, Martian Manhunter, and Green Lantern beginning or are in the middle of their most current arcs, their second real story arcs, ends up being something many fans are starting to dig their teeth into. And beyond that, DC has been killing it with their movies and a bit their TV shows, as well as announcements and prepping us for the new DC Universe and their Elseworld stuff or anything outside of James Gunn's DCU. Superman was a success. We're getting the Supergirl movie in 2026 alongside a Clayface movie. The Batman Part 2 is coming out in 2027. We have an announcement of one of the most famous Batman stories in comics ever told, Batman Nightfall, being adapted into an animated quadrilogy, which makes a lot of Batman fans hyped, but also we kind of want something outside of Batman for, animated movies, if anything. But we're also getting a Green Lantern animated TV show with the My Adventures with the Green Lantern, which is going to follow Jessica Cruz, one of the more modern Green Lanterns to have entered the core, as she'll be in the My Adventures with Superman animated universe. Lastly, 2026 will end up having the new Lanterns TV show, which will have Hal Jordan as a mentor character for the newest Green Lantern, John Stewart, for the DCU, and it'll be more of a buddy cop type mystery series taking place on Earth, and I'm excited for that as well. But needless to say, DC has had a lot going on over the last year, but 2026 is looking to be even better. The My Adventures with Green Lantern cartoon will come out next year as well, but even beyond that, the mainline DC Comics are going to have a massive shift with different writers coming out of different projects, as well as character shifts, but like Kyle Rayner, for the first time in a long time, leading the main Green Lantern book. We're having a pretty famous writer jumping on to the Flash, but that is part of the big shift going on in DC Comics, at least for the mainline universe, as they'll be entering a new stage, DC's next level, which is going to be a start of new deep dives into different characters, as it'll end up being a bit more into different characters' lives and their lore. Our next couple of titles that are going to be in DC are going to be focused on Batwoman, Lobo, and Deathstroke the Terminator. Yeah, we're getting Deathstroke with his title The Terminator back on a DC book, and those are going to be the first batch of books that are going to come out in early March 2026. And honestly, I can't wait to read a Lobo book. It has been a long time since I've actually read anything with Lobo in it by himself that wasn't the crappy New 52 run that we had. But other titles that we are being said to get in the next level printing would end up being Firestorm, The Demon, which focus on Etrigan, which is actually very cool. Zatanna will be getting her own book again as well as Teen Titans, Supergirl, Mr. Terrific, and The Question are being slated to potentially have these. Though we will get Supergirl, because around that time will be the summer of Supergirl, where we'll be getting more Supergirl-based comics or promotion for Supergirl-based comics to lead into the release of her movie in June of next year. So that is still something that is very much to be looking forward to. But even then, the next level event is going to be really cool. Writers are going to be focusing on diving deeper into these characters, their lore, their personalities, and their personal relationships, and how they go about the DC universe, especially after the events of DCKO, where we're going to be getting into a new era of the DC universe, because DCKO is definitely one of, if not the biggest, more recent DC events in a while. Because after the events of the KO tournament, a couple of things are going to change, like Kyle Rayner taking over the role of Green Lantern from the main Green Lantern book, but we will also be getting certain characters gaining superpowers because of the onset of Omega Energy that flooded the world. Like Harley Quinn's going to get some new powers, Cassandra Cain Batgirl, since she's currently having her own Batgirl title running right now that I need to read, she is going to be getting superpowers, blood manipulation powers, which is crazy to think about and makes me excited to read her future books now, because Cassandra Cain is already a pretty cool character in and of herself, but I want to see how it would be like with her powers now, and if that's going to be a permanent permanent thing now, or if that's going to end up being, well, temporary. But depending on how the books go, I will love these powers for her, or I'll think it'll diminish from her character and how things go in the future. But again, depends on how these stories are being written with these new additions to the character. But also makes me excited to see what alterations to these characters that we will see going forward in the DC universe, who will also be affected, given powers are the powers altered due to the events of, well, the KO tournament. And beyond that, there is more status quo changes, because John Kent is going to be starring in his own little mini event called Reign of the Superboys. Yeah, we're getting a Superboy-esque homage to the Reign of Superman from the late 90s after the death of Superman, with John Kent being part of this event, as well as other iterations of Superboy throughout this. And a key instance of it is going to be John Kent once again being de-aged. Now, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on that happened with John being aged up to kind of help him like title his own stories, as well as for a bit where he took over the title of the mainline Superman title while Clark Kent Superman was out in space doing his own stuff. I believe it was the War World saga. I gotta double check on that. I'm making this video right off the cuff, but like John took over the main role of Superman once he got aged up. We explored that for a bit, but then he ended up having his own title for a bit, and he's just been going back and forth between other titles. But this event with John being seemingly aged down to a kid again makes you wonder if we're going to be going back to the, well, Super Sons era, because when I read the Super Sons title with John and Damian, I loved it. I loved their dynamic and how they kept, well, being on each other's toes. They were best friends, and I really liked how they interacted with each other, especially with the deceased Elseworlds title, exploring how they would grow up in that dystopian world and how they would eventually grow into the mantles of their parents is interesting. And while they do have a decent dynamic now, even though John is older, they don't really interact much outside of specific events, so it kind of feels kind of off. But also, John is going to be part of the Titans going to the future, which outside of Reign of Superboys, we are getting a new team of Titans, which is going to be interesting to see, as rosters switching up for different superhero teams is always fun and makes you kind of want to, well, guess on who will be part of the team, what kind of dynamics we'll get, what kind of stories we'll see, and what type of developments we'll end up getting. But all that's to say is, I'm curious to see what we're going to get with the John Kent being aged down, if it'll be a permanent thing or if it will be just temporary. If John does stay as part of the Titans, if he gets aged down, it'll probably be temporary, or maybe this will be addressed in the Titans book as well, and maybe John will join the new iteration of the Teen Titans. Since we are getting a Teen Titans book, there's always the possibility that in DC Next Level, John will join the Teen Titans with Damian or something like that. Who knows? We also are due for a new Teen Titans team. But the main big piece of shifting, well, status quo for the mainline DC books is the Superman title. Mainline Superman is going through a shift, I believe in issue 38, if I'm correct, as this might have actually kind of spoiled the end of the DCKO tournament potentially, but it is confirmed that after the events of DCKO, Superman, Clark Kent, will be MIA. He'll be missing, and when that is done, no one will know where he is, and someone has to take up the mantle of Superman. And since John Kent is probably going to be having his own stuff going on with the reign of the Superboys and him potentially being aged down at that point, Superboy Prime is going to stand up and be the current Superman in the mainline DC title, which if you didn't know already, Superboy Prime is back in DC. The last time we saw him was in Death Metal, and then he came back in the mainline Superman title to help with the Dark Legion of Darkseid, and now he's kind of on Earth helping to prep and help things out with what's going on with the KO tournament back on Earth. But even still, him being the mainline Superman, at least for a little bit, basically implies that Superman will either die at the end of the KO tournament, at the end of the DCKO event, or it'll be confirmed he won. He gained the powers of the King Omega and defeated Darkseid at the end of the day. That just feels like a weird thing to confirm right off the bat, because it does kind of imply the ending has been spoiled for readers like 3 issues before it ends. But hey, I could be entirely wrong here, but that just seems how it could end up being. But even then, it would be cool. It is cool to see Superboy Prime taking a leading role in the Superman title of all things, and to see how his overpowered abilities will work in the mainline DC universe as a hero, as Superman. That'll be fun storytelling to see. And another piece of information that I actually saw just now after looking through my phone on some DC stuff, we got an image of what the new, well, main roster of Justice League Unlimited will be. Superman is going to be MIA, but as an homage to the previous Justice League image, we got the Trinity, but instead of Superman being in the center, it's going to be Lex Luthor for Justice League Unlimited as part of the team. So whatever happens in DCKO, I guess they let Lex on the Justice League afterwards, which is kind of wild. But that is something I'm actually kind of excited to see. But yeah, this big update video and look into the future of DC is really just to show that DC is actually kind of thriving with its titles right now, and with, well, more creative insight from the artists and writers, trying to do some more stuff with the DC universe and trying to explore outside your comfort zones, which is something that I'm really excited to see, especially once I catch up to everything. I have not been caught up with the main Aquaman title since like post Dark Knight's Metal and the breaking of the Source Wall. I had no idea about the abilities of the Blue and how Aquaman uses powers. I had to find out in the tie-in comic to the DC KO tournaments to see his matchup with Hawkman, and my god, is Aquaman even cooler than he was before. But yeah, point is, DC's been amazing, it's been great. I cannot wait for the brand new next level era of DC, the new events, how the DC universe is going to change in the future, but all I know is things are going to be hella fun, and I cannot wait to catch up to everything and be ready to just go month by month with everybody else with these brand new launching on points. But you guys let me know in the comments what you're looking forward to in the future. Do you think DC has been on a good track lately, or is at least on track to being in its best spot it's been in a couple of years? And what are you looking forward to in terms of the comics line, whether it be absolute or main line, or the movies and TV side? Let me know in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hype the video to boost it in the algorithm. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy what I make here on the channel. It shows you want to see more. I'm gonna do more general videos like this in the future, going into the new year, so look forward to these types of things, because it is just fun to yap about comics with people. So just let me know what you guys think and what your favorite comic book runs are right now. And with all that said and done, hope you all have an awesome day.